You know what shocked me most about growing older? It wasn't the gray hair or the quiet house. It was realizing that being right didn't mean a damn thing anymore. Not when it cost me peace. Not when it ruined Christmas. Not when it drove people away who used to love me. I used to argue to win. Now I choose silence, not out of weakness, but wisdom. Because after 65, you learn something people don't talk about. There are things far more valuable than being right. Let me tell you what they are. Peace of mind is worth more than any argument. Let me start with this. There's a kind of silence that feels like victory, and another kind that feels like regret. I've known both. There was a time in my life, not so long ago, when I would have rather lost a tooth than lose an argument. I mean it. I was stubborn, proud, maybe even a little addicted to being right, especially when I knew I was right. You know that feeling, don't you? It's intoxicating. You make your case, you lay out the facts, you wait for them to finally admit it. You were right, but they don't. They never do. And instead of feeling victorious, you're just tired, disappointed, drained. That's how I felt after I stopped speaking to my brother. It started as something small, an old grudge wrapped in a newer disagreement, some inheritance detail. He thought Dad meant it one way, I thought it was another. And because we both inherited the same pride, it turned into this cold, silent standoff. No more birthday calls, no visits. Thanksgiving came and went, twice, then 3 times. I told myself I was protecting my dignity, but deep down, I was just protecting my ego. One night I was sitting alone on the back porch. It was one of those early fall evenings, a little chilly, stars trying to push through the haze. I had a glass of wine in one hand and my phone in the other. His number was still saved. My thumb hovered over it. I thought, maybe I should just call, just say hi, but I didn't. Why? Because in that moment I told myself I was still right. And that decision, choosing silence over peace, stayed with me longer than the argument ever did. You know what I realized? Being right doesn't keep you warm at night. It doesn't show up at your birthday party. It doesn't hold your hand when the doctor says stage 2. It doesn't send a text on Father's Day. Peace of mind does. Peace shows up. Peace hugs you first. Peace sits beside you and says none of that matters anymore. But peace has a price, and that price is your pride. You have to lay it down. You have to be okay with letting someone else think they won. And trust me, it's hard, but it's worth it. Because the older I get, the more I understand this simple truth. You don't always have to win the argument to win the moment. You don't always have to say the clever comeback, or point out the flaw, or correct the record. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not engage. Just breathe. Let it go. Smile even when they're wrong. Nod and say, maybe so. Then pour yourself a cup of coffee and enjoy the quiet you just preserved. Peace of mind isn't about who's right. It's about who's free. Free from resentment. Free from needing the last word. Free from replaying that argument in your head for the 100th time at 3 a.m. You know that feeling. Can't sleep, mind racing, heart pounding. Thinking, I should have said this. I should have told them that. Yeah, I've been there. But here's what I'll tell you now. From someone who's crossed that bridge, no argument is worth your peace. No point is worth your health. No gotcha moment is worth your sanity. After 65, peace isn't just a nice thing to have. It's a necessity. You've earned it. You've survived too much to give it away over petty squabbles. You've been through divorce, heartbreak, funerals, empty nests, money problems, and somehow you're still here. So no, I don't argue like I used to. Not because I lost my edge, but because I found my peace. And that's better than being right. Relationships outlive opinions. Let me say something that took me a long, long time to admit. There were moments, whole years even, where I put opinions above people. And not just strangers. I mean the people I loved. You see, I used to think that if someone disagreed with me, it meant they didn't respect me. If they voted differently, believed differently, raised their kids differently, I'd feel dismissed, invalidated. And instead of asking questions or just listening, I'd pull away, quietly, subtly. I didn't slam doors. I just stopped calling. I didn't yell. I just disappeared. That was easier, or so I thought. But here's the part no one tells you about getting older. Time has a way of humbling you, especially when empty chairs start showing up at the table. I remember sitting in my sister-in-law's kitchen one summer. She was stirring sweet tea with one hand, talking politics with the other. And of course, I disagreed with every word coming out of her mouth. The younger version of me would have jumped in, ready to debate, ready to educate. But that day, something in me just said, let it be. Because here's the truth. I loved her. She wasn't my enemy. She was just someone who grew up in a different house, in a different decade, with different fears and different dreams. She wasn't wrong. She was human. And I wasn't right. I was just me. When you're young, you think every disagreement is a line in the sand. But when you're older, you start to realize most of those lines, they were drawn in chalk, and time, wind, and heartache can wash them away. I've seen people die without speaking to their siblings. I've seen Thanksgiving dinners fall apart over one Facebook post. I've seen parents and children go years without hugging because of a difference of opinion. And for what? Let me ask you something real. Have you ever been at a funeral and thought, at least I won that argument with them? No. You think, I wish I had more time. You wish you'd called. You wish you'd let them ramble about that topic you hated. You wish you'd laughed at their dumb joke, answered their late-night call, said yes to that last visit. Because relationships outlive opinions. Opinions fade. What someone thought about taxes or celebrities or the news, it disappears. But the love, the connection, the shared coffee, the belly laughs, the memories of sitting on the porch during a thunderstorm, that stays. That matters. I remember a moment, just last year. My granddaughter came out to me. She was shaking, scared. I could feel her fear like static in the air, and I didn't know what to say. I had my opinions, I had questions, but more than that, I had love. So I said the only thing that felt real in that moment, you're my girl, I love you. That was it. No lecture, no hesitation, because my love for her was bigger than my opinion of what I thought life should look like. And that's a boundary I set in my heart, quietly, a line I drew, not to separate, but to protect what's sacred. Love. Let me tell you what matters at this age. It's not how many people agree with you. It's how many people still show up, still call, still think of you when they bake something sweet or see a bird that reminds them of your yard. So if you're holding a grudge, if you've let pride keep you from someone who used to make you laugh, please reconsider, reach out, send the message, swallow the pride, because 5, 10, 15 years from now, you won't remember the topic. You'll just remember the silence, and that silence will be loud. You'll hear it in old voicemails, in the dusty seat at the dinner table, in the awkward pause when someone says, "How's your brother doing?" And you'll think, we used to be so close. You know what's stronger than any opinion? A hand held during a bad day, a laugh shared over burnt toast, a hug that says, even if we're different, I'm not letting go. That's what lasts. That's what you'll crave when life slows down and the house gets too quiet. So please, don't sacrifice a relationship on the altar of being right. Because one day, you'll look around and realize the only person left in the room is you. And being right, it won't hug you back. Letting go feels better than winning. You know what no one tells you about winning in an argument? It's lonely. Sure, maybe your point landed. Maybe you had the last word. Maybe you proved them wrong. But then what? You're left sitting there, alone, arms crossed, with a hollow kind of victory. No confetti, no peace, just silence. I used to think letting go meant giving up, that it made me weak, that if I didn't fight to be right, I was somehow losing myself. But I've learned something at this age that I wish I understood decades ago. Letting go is freedom, and sometimes it's the strongest thing you can do. Let me tell you a story, not a big dramatic one, just a quiet moment I still carry in my chest. Years ago, I had a neighbor. Let's call her Joyce. We were good friends, the kind who'd swap tomatoes in summer and shovel each other's driveways in winter. But then, over something small, I don't even remember what, we disagreed. It started with a comment on the local election. Then it turned into a tone. Then came the silence. Weeks passed. Then months. Every time I saw her across the yard, I'd look the other way. Not because I hated her, but because I didn't know how to go back. I was holding on to this invisible scoreboard in my head. She said it first. She should apologize. She knows what she did. But then something happened. One day I saw her struggling to carry in groceries. Her hands full, keys dangling, one bag tearing at the bottom. And for a moment my feet didn't move. That scoreboard in my head flashed like a neon sign. She doesn't deserve your help. But something softer, something older and wiser in me, whispered, "What if this is the last time you ever see her?" So I walked over, grabbed the bag, held the door. We didn't say much, just a quiet thanks and a nod. But you know what? The ice cracked. Not with an apology, not with a big, sweeping conversation, but with kindness, with letting go. I didn't need to win, I just needed to connect. And from that day on, we slowly found our way back to each other, through tomatoes and snow shovels and small smiles. Letting go felt better, lighter, like I was finally setting down a weight I didn't know I was carrying. Because that's what resentment is, isn't it? It's heavy, it creeps into your bones. It rides in the passenger seat on your errands. It sits next to you in church. It eats dinner with you at the quiet end of the table. And all the while, the other person might be living their life, not even knowing you're tangled in knots. So who's really hurting? Not them, you. Listen, I know, sometimes people hurt us deeply. Sometimes forgiveness feels impossible. And I'm not saying you have to let everyone back in, but there's a difference between keeping a safe distance and holding on to bitterness like it's a medal. Bitterness doesn't protect you. It poisons you. One quiet drop at a time. And you can't build joy on top of resentment. It's like planting flowers in concrete. Nothing grows. So here's the truth I live by now. I don't need closure. I don't need to be understood. I don't need an apology. I just need peace. And peace doesn't come from being right. It comes from choosing what matters more. Like laughing with your sister, even if she still brings up that old family story you hate. Or sitting next to your son-in-law at dinner, even if you think his parenting is a little off. Or texting that old friend just to say thinking of you, even if you haven't spoken in years. Because the longer you live, the more you realize pride is expensive and time is priceless. So let go. Let go of who should have called first. Let go of the petty squabble from 2012. Let go of the version of yourself that always had to be the bigger person and just be. Be kind, be present, be soft. I know that sounds cliché, but the hardest people I've met in life, they weren't brave, they were scared. Scared to be vulnerable, scared to be hurt again. But when you're older, you start to see through all that armor. And what's underneath? Just a heart, just a human, just like you. So let go, not for them, for you. Because winning an argument might feel good for 5 minutes. But peace? Peace lasts a lifetime. And that, my dear, is worth far more than being right. Joy isn't found in victory. It's found in connection. Let me tell you something that I wish someone told me when I was younger. Joy doesn't come from being on top. It doesn't come from proving a point, winning a battle, or showing someone you were right all along. No, real joy? It comes from being close, from feeling seen, heard, held, from knowing someone out there understands you, even just a little. And that kind of connection, it doesn't require a trophy, just time and heart. I remember one winter, I must have been in my late 60s, when everything just felt cold. Not just the weather, I was in the middle of a long silence with my daughter. We hadn't talked in months, over something dumb, something prideful. Neither of us budged. And the holidays came. I baked the same pie I always did, set out the same decorations. But when I sat down with my cup of tea, the house felt like a museum. Beautiful, but empty. I stared at that quiet phone for hours, and in that silence it hit me like a wave. No argument was worth this emptiness. Because what I missed wasn't being right. What I missed was her laugh. The way she always teased me about overcooking the turkey. The way she'd steal my slippers when I wasn't looking. I didn't want to win. I wanted her back. So I called. Not to fix anything. Not to explain myself. Just to say, "Hi, honey, I miss you." And that was it. The wall cracked. Not all at once, but it cracked. A week later, she texted me a photo of her cat in a Christmas sweater. A month after that, we had lunch. Awkward and quiet, but together. And now we talk every Sunday. Not because we agree on everything, but because we finally realized we don't have to. Connection isn't about matching opinions. It's about choosing to stay close despite them. It's about calling anyway, showing up anyway, loving anyway, You see, in my younger years, I used to believe joy came from getting it right, having the cleanest house, the best arguments, the strongest convictions. But the older I get, the more I know this deep in my bones. Joy comes from the little things that have nothing to do with being impressive, like the neighbor who waves from their porch every morning, the grandchild who draws you something crooked and calls it a masterpiece, the friend who sits in silence with you after a bad doctor's appointment. That's where joy lives. Not in applause, not in medals, not in being the smartest person in the room, but in the spaces where love lingers, where pride has been put to bed, where winning doesn't matter nearly as much as being there. And don't get me wrong, I still have opinions. I still get mad sometimes. But now, I try to ask myself, will this matter in 5 years? And if the answer is no, I let it go, because I'd rather have people around me than be right and alone. I've been in rooms full of people where I felt like a stranger, because I'd built walls with my words. And I've been in tiny kitchens, surrounded by mismatched mugs and crumbs on the counter, feeling more loved than I ever did in the biggest crowd. It's not about how many people you impress. It's about how many people feel safe being themselves around you. And that only happens when you drop the armor, when you stop needing to win, when you start letting others in. Joy isn't loud. It's not always flashy. Sometimes it's the quiet moment when someone trusts you enough to cry, or when they call just to hear your voice, or when they sit next to you, saying nothing. But you both know what that silence means. That's the joy I wish I'd chased sooner. Not the kind you post online, not the kind you boast about, but the kind that shows up unannounced and stays until your heart remembers how to breathe. So if you're sitting there, arms crossed, holding on to some old grudge or victory, I ask you, is it worth more than peace? Is it worth more than laughter, than warmth, than Sunday phone calls and birthday cards and hugs that melt the years away? Because I promise you, when the days grow quiet, you won't care about who agreed with you. You'll care about who stayed. So let your joy come from connection, from the messy, beautiful, human choice to stay close even when it's hard. Because in the end, that's what we're all hungry for, not to be right, but to be loved. So, if there's one thing I hope you take from this, it's this. You don't have to win every argument. You don't have to prove every point. You just have to choose peace. Choose people. Choose what truly lasts. After 65, life has a way of showing you what matters. And most of the time, it's not what you used to chase. It's love. It's connection. It's knowing you can sit in a room and be fully yourself without needing to be right. If this message touched your heart even just a little, I'd be so grateful if you hit that like button, subscribe to Elder Words, and share this with someone who might need to hear it too. Your story isn't over, and it's never too late to choose what really matters.